Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Crisis, or sorry, Mark. When Crisis gamer thing is Crisis, normal thing is Mark. Crisis 169. We're in the gaming history now. I talked about when to do this eventually. I know with the whole Big Boogie thing and the whole Xbox thing and PlayStation issue, Helldivers 2. I haven't had a lot of time to or live stream. I was going to do an upload, but I'll do a live stream because some people have requested it on my channel in the past. They want to do a history thing. Now I watched the game history and I watched lots of stuff like that, and I watched Icons before Icons on YouTube about the gaming crash, 1983. And make a long story short, the game crash 1983 happened because the company that created games, Activision and Mattel, who actually made Barbie, and Activision, I'm sorry, but Atari, got into gaming and made a game console, and right back in 75, 76. Now, no, 4 or 5 years before I was born. Um, and what happened was that the game console was a great success. And the games were being made from Atari. Well, fast forward maybe a year or so or two, they sold themselves to Time Warner, for $25 million. Once again, I'm going through this real quickly because I want to get to the now area. Um, and what happened was though, Atari programmers wanted credit, and I think it was Don Tratton who it was told the creators, one would piss off practically. He can't use that terminology. He said, "You're no more important than the person on the same line putting the game together," because the games were actually cartridges, and they had a screw there, and you screwed it in. It was actually a very small little uh, game data on big cartridge. If you see Atari cartridge, you know what I'm talking about. I think it's huge. They're like little bricks, and popping in there a little screw and come out, and that's all they are, a little screw holding together. And that's it. Our imagination ran like Hulkamania back in the '80s. It ran wild. Um, but be that as it may, what really caused it was when Activision became its own entity and formed its own entity and started making games. Atari sued, of course, lost. Long story. Then you had other games like Chuck Wagon, and you had all Mattel make games. Also, they made consoles. Anybody who had a computer back then, or anybody who could make games, sold them in stores. So a big, gigantic problem, and that would cause the crash '83. And '83, and for about 2 years, games didn't sell, didn't do anything. Games were not there. It was more of a simulation on PC. It wasn't games anymore. So Nintendo came in and saved the day, in the rest is history. I know I want to do that very fast because I don't want to spend a 45-minute video. It'll take me up to an hour to literally go through all this and dissect everything I was talking about. Okay? I know I made this video a couple times in the past, but you guys want to hear, a lot of people want to hear the gaming history from a guy who does not have, fancy intros and videos. So, in my experience with the gaming industry, being a gamer for many years and still to this day, 42 years later, a little less than that, probably about 35 years later, 36 years later, because I wasn't playing games while I was a baby. That's impossible. But I was, playing games when I was, a kid, obviously. But will there be a gaming crash like back then? No, because you have to understand the game crash '83. If you read about it, watch about it on TV, watch about it on G4 Icons on YouTube, Game Historian, it stopped. The industry just went cold. I mean, it went like Napster. It went kaput. Nobody was buying games. You're buying games, bargain bin at discounts for 2 to 5 bucks. So when I said the gaming crash happened in '83, it went completely dead. There was no gaming at all except PC. But PCs were expensive, yet they came down in price around '83. So people started buying personal computers, IBM, stuff like that. Even Macintosh came out a little later on, a few years after that. Nintendo came in and advertised stuff as a toy, not a gaming console. and that brought back game industry. But the game when I said the game industry died, it wasn't because it just died. It was completely dead, flatline. Took the dirt on the casket of the game industry. That was the old game industry, the older game industry, the Wild Wild West, you want to call it. That was the Red Dead Red Dead 2 of the gaming industry, gaming experience. Red Dead 2 is it's the end of the era of the outlaw of the old west. Well, that was the old west, and that was considered gone, passe, finito, burnt to a crisp, we want to call it whatever. So it was no longer there. So in the new era, the era that I grew up in a lot more. Granted, I played 2600 because I was a little scrub. I didn't go to arcades until about maybe 7, maybe 8 years old because I was a little scrub. I had no money. So, and my sister and brother didn't want to share with me the money because they went out and work their butts off for it. Why they got to have a little, the share little scrub who wants to take money all the time and go play games and gets killed instantly. Well, my brother and sister play games for hours on 2 quarters. They play 2 quarters of a game. They play 1 quarter of a game and they play. I play 5 quarters. I'm done in 10 seconds because I'm just, I have no, when you're a scrub, you have no hand eye coordination back then. Now, unless you're a gifted kid and cool, but a lot like me, I was kind of a scrub. I'd go spend a quarter, die, and that's it. So I understand now why my brother and sister didn't take money and throw it at me, quarters and throw it at me. It would hurt. But anyway, though, that's not the point. But the point is this though: the gaming crash happened in '83 because they did not self-regulate. They allowed themselves to be the wild, wild west, and you can't do that in a business market. Nintendo knew what they needed to do, and they ran with it. And other places caught on, like would say 3DO, but a lot of them are gone. But Sony and Microsoft really took it and ran with it. And that being said, though, that's what really caused the gaming industry to actually thrive and flourish. Sega really ran with it in the late '80s and all through the mid early '90s with the Genesis does what Nintendo don't. No, 10 don't. You know, and that was pretty cool. And we had small crashes along the way. Companies like 3DO and Sega bowing out. 3DO going out of business. Intel Marty company going out of business. A lot of companies falling to the wayside. But when you had companies like Nintendo, Sega still makes games, Microsoft and Sony, and even we had a game crash quite recently, a company crash called Stadia. That was a platform that more of a platform, but it's still a crash. We have small hiccups along the way that crash. Luna is pretty much looking to be out the door eventually if they don't start wrapping up some serious numbers here. But is there going to be another gaming crash like we had before? No, because if it crashes now, if we have a crash now like we had in '83, the industry would completely implode on itself. There'd be no way to sustain the heaviness of this structure we call the gaming industry. It's too many tentacles or too many lines going in too many areas. It's in movies, it's in TV shows, it's in pop culture. They had a game, of 1980, I think 1980 presidential election on Atari. You can play Ron Don Mantro and or Ronald Reagan. I'm not kidding you. They had a game based upon that. So gaming and pop culture have been around since the '80s. Having sports icon, music icons, it's nothing new. To see stars today, being embraced in video games. Certain stars, certain TV shows are actually playing games, or actually starring games, voice actors. So it's nothing new. So is the game industry going to go bust? No. But are we shedding the fat, so to speak? Yes. Sony just had Bungie lied to Sony about some stuff, and Sony is closing down some of laying off some of Bungie Studio staff. Microsoft closed down 2 or 4 studios and opening up, I think, 2 more and releasing more games. And these kind of things kind of fluctuate. You have to have a yin and a yang. You have to have a balance of power where you have, okay, we're going on all cylinders, so everything has gone fine. But you lose some and you gain some. That's where the game industry, just like the movie industry, changed from the silent film where someone talked, then a card came up what was being said, to actually talkies, to actually using 8 millimeter film, to using better film, to using high definition, to now using Blu-ray, now using 4K, and it's like it's just streaming services came from Mailbox and Netflix to now GameStop, or GameFly. Now you can download games to your console or PC or phone of choice. This is what people don't understand. People don't understand. Is that this was something that I never knew, but it does happen sometimes. I think it's one of those things that does take place sometimes that people just don't understand. And I think that if people understood it, more and more people would probably get a lot more out of it. If we understood the basics of our generation of gaming. Like, I grew up with Atari, then NES, Super NES. A lot of you guys grew up probably with the PS2. And I understand that you think, oh, gaming is pretty cool. A lot of kids today don't even know what a game came from or don't even care because they're too busy playing their little game and they don't understand the history of it. Me, I like the history of gaming. I like to know that what games started from, just a fantasy and a dream to being, a multi-billion-dollar industry where companies like Microsoft and Sony are buying up other companies and hopefully creating some good stuff eventually, creating some good stuff with that. And doing that quite well. But we're not going to know until later on down the line. But is that a bad thing, though? Is that a bad thing? That games are not living up to expectations. I think the bad games are not killing the industry. It's killing the companies. The company that created Redfall went bust because Microsoft killed the studio. Now, granted, they probably could have made a studio. They probably could have updated the game. They're in the routine of they're in the mission of updating the game when they got told they're being shut down. Redfall, and the mentality is that every game has to sell like Call of Duty. Call of Duty is selling if people are buying the DLC and crap. Now you take that away and put it on Game Pass. How are you going to make money? So is there going to be another gaming crash? No. But is there going to be another studios crashing? Oh, hell yeah. Stuff we haven't seen nothing yet. Studios are going to crash some more because they're going to make a game like a Redfall. It's going to tank, and the company that owns them are going to pull the plug, and that game company is going to crash, die, kaput. When I mean crash, I mean go out of business crash. Like happen with a lot of these companies, many companies in the 80s have gone out of business that made games. Except some dog food companies and Mattel, they've been around forever. But look at back and type in gaming crash of '83 and bring up the list of companies that made games, and I'll show you. To tell you, a lot of them are no longer in existence. They've been dead since '83. And the creators probably died too when they probably took their life. Very sad they did. But a lot of people sucking a lot of money into the gaming industry in the '80s, and they lost their shirt, they lost their ass, they lost a lot. and some of them, couldn't deal with that loss, and very sad they probably took their own lives. A lot of people probably did back then because they had, they sunk all their information, they sunk all their stuff into it, and they couldn't believe, and they couldn't believe that they lost everything. They couldn't believe that they lost their shirt. But it happens all the time in movies. How many studios from the silent era, made it into the talkies? And after that, not very many. How many talkies made it into the 21st century or 20th century or 21st century? I mean, not many. They get bought up or they go out of business. See, the game industry is kind of like the movie industry in the sense that it's, like I said, it's a flux. It's a catch can. You have to try to figure out, your latest strategy and how you're going to create the best movie, or in this case, games. And these companies are literally taking the dice and they're rolling it, because a lot of companies now are being told, hey, if you don't make a good game, you're out. I mean, out. I mean, gone. And Helldivers 2, Arrowhead made a great game, and the whole PlayStation fiasco took off. Here next, here coming on Tuesday, or Wednesday or Thursday of next week, we're gonna have the latest DLC update for Helldivers 2. This will make or break this game. If this game does not succeed, Arrowhead will probably go out of business because they wouldn't be able to sustain that hit very long. Or they'll sell out to Sony, and Sony will devour them and then send them off to go make Ratchet and Clank or whatever nonsense. And just like EA bought Respawn, there won't be no Helldivers 3. So that right there is very something very good. When Respawn got sold to EA, Titanfall 3 was no longer in the picture. And even Apex Legends is having a lot of problems now with their DLC issues and their management. So every game, I'm more worried about the game, not the industry, but more the games that we love to play are losing luster and losing their jobs. Developers losing their jobs, the games are going out of business. And I don't mean the company itself, the industry, but the games themselves. The game manufacturers are losing their jobs because they can't create the next Call of Duty or the next Halo or the next Uncharted 2. A lot of people think these games come out every 4 years and they sprinkle a little fairy dust, do a little magical Pope thing, and boom, it sells gangbusters. Not every game does it. Not every indie game has a Cinderella story like Helldivers 2 that turned into a nightmare as well. Most games like Redfall come out from a company like Microsoft, for crying out loud. It comes out, it crafts a turd, and dies off behind a bush because they rushed it out and didn't bother to give the blessing to do it and to wait. Halo Massive Collection, another prime example. The game industry, guys, ain't going anywhere. The games will. Studios will die. The industry is going to stay where it's at. Don't anybody tell you, oh my God, the game industry is going to fall apart and die. Impossible. There's so much money in this. Microsoft themselves can hold up the game industry if they want to by themselves. When you got $3 trillion, you don't worry about money. When you're Sony and you have close to almost like 10 or 20 billion dollars, you don't worry about money. When you're winning Nintendo, you've been around 150 years. You don't worry about existence or going out of existence. These three companies here can hold up the game industry for probably the next 50 to 100 years because they have the financial gain. More Sony. But Nintendo has a lot more of the business savviness. And Sony had a lot more of the will fire, the real ooh wow moments when it comes to stories and stuff. But the industry has been taken over by companies, by two of them don't make they don't make games. Think about it. We have a software company and a company that makes DVD players, Blu-ray players, Walkmans, and CD players, ruling the roost when it comes to gaming. And little Nintendo is putting around with Paper Mario in the background. That's what we have, folks. So the game industry, guys, ain't going to go nowhere. If anybody tells you that, they're full of crap. Because, like I said before, you have a software company, Microsoft, that makes Windows. You have Sony that makes Walkmans, boom boxes, VHS, VCR for you kids out there, um, Blu-ray players, streaming boxes, TVs, phones, making game consoles and games. Or not, the game industry ain't going anywhere. Will it change a little bit? Of course. Will you lose Square Enix? Will you lose Ubisoft? Will you lose Capcom? Probably not. Would Sony and Microsoft love to go out and buy those? Hell yeah. Buy Capcom, throw it on the Sony PlayStation tag. Hey, we have Resident Evil 4 there, bitches. Come buy PlayStation or PC. Same on same on the Xbox. Hey, we got Halo. We got the zombie games. We got it all, biatches. Come buy the Xbox. Oh, and PC too as well. Because PC fan base is over 500 million players. Technically, 500 million players are actually on PC. But half of them are inactive, but they're PCs, gaming rigs. So, is there a reason to fear? No. But we should not ignore years gone by, like 83. Gaming crash happened. Nintendo came in, put the old flag up. Nintendo, everybody cheered, kids, yay, cheered gaming back. Sega came in with Sonic, and the old coal there, the battle of the consoles. What's going to be? What's going to be? Who's going to win? In the end, Sony came out and took the spot from Sega. It became number 2. Nintendo came number 1 for a while until the feverish Sony's like excellent, going behind their plant, and they created an empire, all because of stupidity from different people who should have been watching better. But is it meaning that it's bad to have a software company and a company that made hardware with other things other than gaming, making consoles? No, I think having this is good. You have Ubisoft making Nintendo characters or Nintendo games for Nintendo. The Rabbids Kingdom came out on the Switch when it came out years ago. A lot of my friends love that game because it was a Ubisoft game that took Nintendo IP to a whole new direction. Now, will they try it again? They probably will. They'll probably create new IP. Will Nintendo allow people or give the blessing to other developers to do that? It'd be good to give a new approach. Now, will Sony allow Guerrilla Games to create more games to create the next Resistance game or next Ratchet and Clank? Maybe, maybe not. Will Sony and Microsoft give it something else to try to create Halo and give the 350 Studios something else to do for a while? Maybe. Would you see Call of Duty go to Halo and Halo go to Call of Duty? And you might see 350 Studios working on Call of Duty, and you may see, hey, you want that growth. You want to inject something new into the overweight corpse that's game industry. You don't want to have the same thing. Gears of War is dead in the water. Okay, I don't care what it tells you. Halo Infinite is hanging on by a prayer. Call of Duty played out. Battlefield, my God. Helldivers 2, fresh air. But yes, it's very competitive, very repetitive. You have a lot of games and racing games are all the same, just different coats of paint. People are getting back into fighting games. Assassin's Creed Valhalla sold very well. Far Cry 6, not so much, but still sold pretty well. People want games that are simple to play but also challenging. Helldivers 2, Apex Legends, Call of Duty Warzone for a while there, PUBG. These games are still doing well because they have fan bases that love the chaotic mess that is created when you drop in or do things. This is what people want. They want innovation, and companies are going to give it to them. The problem we had in '83 was there was no innovation and there's no regulatory system. It was, like I said before in the beginning of the video, the wild, wild west. Everybody was blasting each other, running around trying to figure out, throwing firebombs at people's cars or whatever, because they did not know how to react. And once Atari went up and sold 25, $30 million worth of stuff, they were like, okay, well, cool, we could smoke pot in our office and create games. Well, not anymore when you sold your soul to Time Warner. Suits and ties, business, 8 o'clock in the morning, leave at 5, Monday to Friday. That's when the game industry started hurting. Like the wrestling industry. I can go on for hours, folks. So, in closing, the game industry is not going to go anywhere. It will change. Yes. Look, I talked about big box stores. I may cover this again. Gaming in stores. Now, I may cover this eventually. But gaming in stores, has the fad died? Maybe. But right now, the gaming industry is in a great, great recovery from what it could have gone through a couple years ago. And with third-party companies like Amazon Luna coming out there and trying to grab a hold of the streaming market, it's only going to get a lot better, I predict. This is Crisis 169. This is Mark. I'll see you guys later. You be blessed out there. Take care. Like, subscribe, notification, ring that bell if you haven't already. And I'll holler at you guys later. Peace.